In 2017, I bought an Aputure 120D. This light was a game changer for me. Before this, I'd used LED panel lights and of course hot lights. It's been about 5 years since Aputure has offered a light under 300 watts, and they hit the ground running with the Aputure Storm 80C. This not only is brighter than the 120D, but it's also full color, it's weatherproof, and it's an all metal body. Very well built. Let's get into this very thorough review of the Aputure Storm 80C. This is the light I purchased with my own money. It's a light I've used on about 5 or 6 shoots now, and this is going to be a very thorough review, minus photometric measurements. I don't have a Sekonic, and frankly, I don't have the patience. This light has made me very happy. I do have some cons, many of which I haven't seen other folks post about, but I'm going to start with the things I like. Obviously, its size. The 120D was tiny when it came out. This is somehow tinier. You can even remove this yoke to make it smaller than a mirrorless camera. It's all metal besides some plastic parts around the yoke. I'll get into that in my cons. The V-lock on the side allows you to snap in your power brick into the yoke itself. There's a locking connection on the power connection that I really appreciate. And there's a number of 3/8 inch area locking pin holes here. And there's also one on the bottom. And the same with on either side where the yoke attaches. So mounting options are really nice too. Again, sticking this into a tight corner, you'll be able to use a magic arm or similar to put it exactly where you want. The color out of this light is beautiful. This is my first Blair CG light engine light, but I'm probably going to be getting only Blair lights going forward. I'm a huge fan of the color and the range of the CCT. I'll demonstrate my main use case for this light in a moment, but first let's dive into the cons. This plastic connection of the yoke, it has a very sharp edge. I cut my hand the first day I had this light just by grabbing it by the yoke. So I took some pretty heavy grit sandpaper and just sanded off this really sharp edge. That's made this a much safer light to hold. The next thing also to do with the yoke is, while it's fairly easy to remove the yoke, you just have to, well, let's see how easy this is. You have to unscrew both sides, and then you can lift up and it comes off. Getting it back on is a chore. Having a single dial to adjust everything is not ideal for me. I'm constantly pressing the wrong thing and it's slowing me down. I wish there was more dials, fewer buttons on the back. I'm guessing this may have been a cost-saving measure. Another con is when you're using the AC power, you have this brick, which is not very heavy, but if I'm arming this out and I have a kind of heavy modifier in it, like a softbox, for example, I'm not going to want any extra weight to add to the load that I'm arming out. So I'm going to want to put this closer to the center of my stand and maybe hang it by this. However, this cable is too short. If I have a full C-stand arm, this is not going to reach that stand, so it's going to be dangling in the middle and probably getting into my shot. I wish that we had an extra foot on this. Aputure does make another extended cable for this, but it's way longer. There's no kind of happy medium between this, so that was sort of a disappointment. Small lights tend to have small fans. Small fans tend to have high-pitched sounds. All right, the light is now about 1 yard from my microphone. I'm going to be quiet so you can hear the ramping up and winding down of the. So now it's off. Now, I don't see this as being an issue with the audio. However, if this light happens to be pretty close to talent, I could see it being a pretty big distraction for them, having the light make a whirring sound only to be quiet a few seconds later. So in this case, I'd probably have it at medium the whole time, which isn't a huge deal. I just don't enjoy toggling between smart and medium. So that's the fan issue. Let's talk about power now. First, put this much lower. Once again, did the wrong thing. Maybe even if just the bolding that happens when a certain value is selected, if that bolding was extra bold instead of just like a teeny bit bold, that would make me much happier in my user experience here. As mentioned before, it has a nice V-lock mount here for a V-mount battery. However, between my own testing with small rig batteries like the 99 and the 150 watt hour variants, it doesn't seem like they have the necessary amperage, since they're used to powering cameras, to deal with the high output requirements that the Aputure ADC requires. So I have instead resorted to this iFootage battery handle solution. And as you can see, I added the little elastic band that comes with the Aputure ADC. I added it to this instead so that I can do that. So when I'm not using the baby pin as the way to mount the light, I'm, say if I'm wanting to put this on a C-stand arm, I'm able to just use that little strap to mount it, which I really like. The USB-C here on the back here is a really welcome addition. I want to mention some things to consider when you're using USB-C power though. If I use a standard, let's say Apple USB-C cable, when I hit 75, you see that we suddenly have this drop in output. It's kind of green, and look at that. This sort of low frequency flicker. And this continues going up to 100%. Basically, the cable itself can't sustain the 100 watt power delivery. Now, here's my most common use case for an interview setup. It's right there, just off frame, and it's motivating like direct sunlight. There's off, on. I have the C-stand now armed out just over my right shoulder, and it's pointing to the ceiling above me. This now suggests that there's an array of fluorescence or LED lights in the ceiling that are bringing up the ambience in this room. So those are just two different looks that I was very quickly able to create with the C-stand in the same place and just moving the arm around. Now, it wouldn't be a Blair CG light review if we didn't do some color wheel action. So let's bring up the Sidus Link color wheel. Look at that. Look at that yellow. Let's keep going around the wheel here. And back to gold. In the US, this light goes for 600 USD. It's not nothing, especially if you're buying several of the units. I would argue, though, as a value proposition, you're getting weatherproofing, you're getting the Blair CG light engine, CRMX, and aluminum build quality. There are many folks who don't have a need for many of these features. In that case, I know that Nanlite has a 60C light that is similar and costs less. as someone who was looking to find a replacement for my 120D after 8 years, this is a more than worthy successor. If you have any questions about details that I maybe glossed over, I love answering questions in the comments, so please post anything you can think of. Consider subscribing, and hope to see you in the next one.